The immigration debate is partially about political power, and believe it or not, today it has become a major and continuous political issue in the world's wealthiest nations. When politicians talk about immigration reforms, they mean amnesty, cheap labor, and open borders. On the contrary, no one can deny the facts that substantial inflow of migrants to the United States during the last 30 years has significantly shaped the US economy and society. In one sense, immigration, like other two elements of globalization, cross-border flow of goods and money, brings economic benefits to the recipient countries. Indeed, the countries of Europe need immigrants. Low birth rates, which fall below the replacement rate of 2.2 live births per female all across the continent, lead to aging societies with shrinking workforces and ultimately declining populations. To sustain economic growth, they need to import what they are not producing. In this scenario, it's people. The United States is no exception and was benefited from its immigrants since the 18th century. And many of the high-tech firms in Silicon Valley were started by immigrants mostly dominated by the people of Asia. Not everyone agrees on what constitutes the reforms. What is clear though is that US immigrant policies need comprehensive reforms. There are important international as well as domestic policies that could have overbearing effects on the health of US economy. Over a period of time, things have changed substantially on the ground level due to overflow of immigrant population affecting native workers' opportunities in the labor market. The downside of this confluence could potentially lead to serious problems impacting on other aspects of the host country's economy, for example, through fiscal effects, consumption, and contribution to the scientific innovation as well as on its culture, social reforms, and sense of security, and ultimately becoming fastest rising concern for Americans of all political ideologies. The share of people who say immigration is the most important issue is higher now than at the times than at any time in the last 17 years according to a report. Decades of disastrous trade deals and immigration policies have destroyed the middle class. In the recent years, the eroding middle class poses a serious challenge to the nation's economic growth, which is something to be said for the political and economic stability. According to a study from California's Legislative Analyst Office, Americans across the country are feeling stress of lower or stagnant income and rising cost of living, with the Pew reporting in January that 7 out of 10 Americans are strained by financial issues ranging from crucial debt loans, insufficient savings, or low income, that too low to cover their expenses, leading to a growing nationality revolution among the citizens. Adding to the growing nationality revolution in many wealthy nations, today nearly 40% of black teenagers are unemployed. Nearly 30% of Hispanic teenagers are unemployed. For black Americans without high school diplomas, the bottom has fallen out. More than 70% were unemployed in 1960s, compared to less than 40% in 2000. Across the economy, the percentage of adults in the labor force has collapsed to a level not experienced in generations. However, not to deviate from our main subject, immigration took center stage in the US 2016 presidential elections, and its aftermath with the slogan "Make America Great Again." Will immigration reform make America great again? Any real immigration reforms puts the needs of working people first, not wealthy globe-trotting donuts. The United States is one of the countries in the world whose immigration system puts the needs of other nations ahead of their own till the recent past. Now the Republicans believe that this must change. Here are the 3 core principles of real immigration reform, which clearly indicates growing nationalism, contradicting the previous immigration reforms, which had significant impact in the growth of US economy. Coming to the first one, a nation without borders is not a nation. There must be a wall across the southern border. For many years, Mexican leaders have been taking the advantage of United States by using illegal immigration to export the crime and poverty in their own country to the neighboring nation. They are indirectly responsible for this problem, and politicians play this card during elections campaign. Coming to the second one, a nation without law is not a nation. Laws passed in accordance with our constitutional system of government must be enforced. A nation that doesn't serve its own citizens is not a nation. Any immigration plan must improve jobs, wages, and security for all the citizens. Coming to the third one, Trump's racist remarks during the election campaign reminded everyone that the hatred towards immigrants is alive in a country that practices integration and acceptance of all. In 2016, there were 43.7 million immigrants in the United States. About 1 million immigrants a year receive green cards that allow legal resident status. Over 16 million American-born children are US citizens, constituting to 25% of all US residents. Even today, there are estimated 10.7 million undocumented immigrants in the United States, which is 3% of the US population and 25% of the immigrant population. More interestingly, the Department of Homeland Security found that 15.5% of undocumented immigrants benefit from the Medicaid. Around $2 billion a year goes to hospitals, who must care for anyone who shows up at the emergency room. It's similar to the 16.1% of native-born Americans who uses Medicaid. Many undocumented immigrants receive the benefits because they live in households with eligible Americans. Half of the undocumented immigrants came from Mexico. At the same time, the number from Asia, Africa and Central Asia has increased. If anyone has a threat or credible fear or torture in their home country, they can request for asylum at the borders.